gentlemen, it is the distinct pleasure of the management to present to you the evening star attraction. Here they are, back after their exclusive 3-year tour of Europe, Scandinavia, and the subcontinent. Won't you welcome from Calumet City, Illinois,
John Cope, Cope Racing Transmissions. Hello again, it's John Cope from Cope Racing Transmissions, and I am at Cope Racing Transmissions today. Today it's going to be like a short video on definitions. I had a couple people ask me in emails and messages what some definitions are. There's some new lingo out there that some people don't understand, and I'll admit it's probably mostly streetcar guys that don't know the race car terms. But that's okay, because I got a list of here, I think about 8 or 9 different things that I'm going to talk about and explain to you. I'm going to explain to you the difference and give you my explanation of what is what. So I made a list so I wouldn't forget, so I'm going to just check these off as we go down. We'll do something real simple first, and I'm going to just put a check mark by it. Low band apply. It's a term that in the Chrysler world is out there, and some people want to know what low band apply is. When reverse manual valve bodies first came out, I remember seeing them in the Mopar Performance catalog. They were made by, what company was that? They were Cheetah, Turbo Action. They were made by Cheetah, or they were called Cheetahs, made by Turbo Action. And they didn't have low band apply, and to this day, 100 years later, they still don't have low band apply. Low band apply is when the transmission is in first gear and the low reverse band is on or applied. There's a benefit to having that on. When the band is on, the sprag is being held at the same time, so you'll get the benefit of 2 devices doing the holding. You have the sprag, which is locked, and the band, which is on. And the sprag goes in the low reverse drum. The band goes around the low reverse drum. So you're just making the transmission strong by having that band on. When valve bodies first came out, there was no low band apply. Then, I don't remember when it went down, maybe in the 90s. Low band apply became a great way of keeping racers safe, because when you have the scenario of no low band apply and you're strictly relying on the sprag to do the holding in first gear, the more power guys were making with their race cars, or even if they accidentally made a driver error mistake, the sprag becomes a weak point and could fail. And when the sprag does fail, the internals of the transmission could rev up to ungodly amounts, and the front drum, which is made from cast metal, real porous metal, can literally explode. It'll come apart, it'll take the transmission case out, it'll come through the floorboard. I've seen it go through windshields. It happened to me when I was a kid. In the Coronet, which I still have, and it still shows damages of when the transmission exploded. And to this day, it was the only transmission I've ever built that exploded. It was my own, and it came through the floorboard, and it hurt me, and it put me in the hospital. And it's things you read on the internet, you see videos of it and whatnot. it was back in the day where when I was doing this. I bought the car in '88, so it had been '90. I think it was the year I got married in 1990. I'm not sure if there was any billet steel drums out there. I'm not too sure if there was low band apply. If there was, it wasn't mainstream to the Mopar world yet, and I certainly didn't have it. I had a cheetah valve body. I didn't have no billet drum, and like a fool, I didn't have any safety device, any scatter shield. But I've seen stock drums go through scatter shields. So the really only way to get yourself safe if you're racing or under, a high horsepower motor, is get a valve body, a CRT valve body with low band apply, get a billet drum, and make sure that you have some kind of a safety shield or a blanket. That way you'll be completely covered. So that is low band apply. Let's go to the next one. And it's going to be like a 3-in-1. It's going to be on manual valve body since we're talking about low band apply. What's the difference between a forward manual and a reverse manual? And I hear a lot of people today using the term full manual. I want a full manual valve body. When you say full, that indicates that that almost gives you the sense that there could be a part or a half or a non-manual, or I don't understand that. I hear the diesel guys say that all the time. It's a full manual. Well, no, it's either manual or automatic. Now, a automatic valve body could be shifted manually, but it's still an automatic valve body. A manual valve body is manual. Full or partially full or whatever. That terminology doesn't make no sense to me. So it does in one sense. I have a 48 RE 48 valve body that shifts first, second, third, fourth on the manual valve, which I guess you can say it's full manual. All the rest of every other valve body out there in the 48s shift 1, 2, 3, and you have to flip a button for overdrive. So maybe those are not full manual, even though they call them that. But mine is. If you want to use that terminology full, then my valve bodies for the 48s and 46s are full manual. Now, the difference between reverse manual and forward manual, it's real simple. The reverse pattern is you shift the car in reverse to what it would be normally stock. So the shift pattern will be park, reverse, neutral, first, second, third. You're shifting in a reverse pattern or backwards. Forward manual, you have to take the shifter to shift it manually and go from first, I said that incorrectly, park, reverse, neutral, third, second, first. So you're going to take the shifter, go all the way back to normally, which is low 1, and then push it forward. I don't like forward manual valve bodies. I don't build forward manual valve bodies because you're shifting it towards neutral, and there's a possibility you could hit neutral. When you shift backwards, you're going away from neutral. Also, the reverse manual valve body truly is a manual valve body because it's running off the manual valve. There's only one check ball. There's no moving shift valves. There's no shift springs. There's no governor. So it's just the manual valve, the pressure regulator valve, and the converter charge valve. That's it. In a forward manual valve body, which is for girls, everything is still in there. The governor has to be in or blocked. That still has shift valves. So it's really no different than having a TF-2 kit, shift kitted valve body, but you're taking the governor pressure and you're making it so high that when you move the shifter, the governor pressure overrides it and makes the shift. I don't like them. I know people out there do, and whatever, that's cool. You want to use them? Great. I quit making them years ago. So that's the difference between those three. And here's a term, the next term that I'm going to talk about is band overlap. What is band overlap? with a 904, 727, 46RE, 48RE, all these rear-wheel drive Chrysler transmissions, you have bands that turn on, bands that turn off, clutch drums that turn on. So the most common band overlap issue is second to third gear shift. And how it works in the transmission is the second gear band turns on to get second gear, and then it has to shut off while the front clutch turns on and gives you third gear. If the front clutch turns on quicker than when the band releases, you'll get a little bit of a bind. You'll feel it in the seat of your pants. Sometimes you feel the car nose down. That's overlap. That's where the front drum and the band are still on at the same time. So you have to make an adjustment. You have to either slow down the apply for the direct drum or speed up the release for the band. And it's easier to slow down the front clutch. When we do this by putting 15 springs in the front drum, we do it by making the clearance 80 to 90 thousandths. And we do this by not using those red servos that have that little piece that presses in the case. I'm not going to mention the name, don't need to, but people sell tons of them out there. And you know, these torque flight transmissions, normally the way they operate, are always going to have just a slight little bit of a band overlap. Even they're shifting as clean as you can. You put one of those red servos in there where the sleeve gets pounded in the case, I guarantee you it's going to cause overlap. Matter of fact, if you have an overlap condition and you have my dual spring servo and you have that red servo that someone else sells, and you put my servo in there, it'll fix your overlap. If you put the red servo in there, it's going to make the overlap even worse. So don't use that red servo. Okay, so band overlap. The next ones are going to be more race talk. We're going to talk about what's a trans brake. Trans brake is a reverse manual valve body that we make, that when you press a button, it turns on reverse, and it locks the forward gear and the reverse gear together where the transmission's locked up. It can't go nowhere. Then the driver will accelerate to the floor and the engine RPMs go up high. You'll see this on drag cars. The driver lets go of the button, which let goes of the trans brake. The front clutch comes off and the car is propelled forward. So that's a trans brake and how it works. What's a trans brake with clean neutral? Clean neutral is built into the manual valve, and it allows the driver, once he goes through the finish line, to shift the shifter, which you'll need a special shifter for, one more time to get a neutral. This way the driver can idle down the racetrack after the finish line to go to the return road, instead of the engine gearing down the whole time you're going to the return road. This is probably common with engines that are real expensive, because when you're gearing down after you're deaccelerating and the compression is slowing the car down, that's hard on rods, rod bolts, and bearings. Especially if you have aluminum rods, you could really enhance the life of aluminum rod by going to clean neutral. Some of the 4-speed guys that went from a 4-speed to an automatic kind of like that, because they're used to pushing in the clutch and putting the shifter in neutral and coasting to the end of the racetrack. I've had a couple of guys get my clean neutral that used to be 4-speed guys and now are automatic guys. So clean neutral is just a neutral after third gear. So the shift pattern will be park, neutral, and in the first neutral, you would apply the trans brake button to back the vehicle up. You don't want to back up, you don't press the button. Then it'll be first gear, second gear, third gear, and then third gear, then neutral. So that's the shift pattern for clean neutral. What is your second gear launch? I have a trans brake that normally all trans brakes, when they first came out, in our first trans brake, the brake applies only in first gear. So you stage your car, you press the button, the trans brake comes on, you accelerate, you let go, and away you go. If you try taking and applying the trans brake on my valve body in second or third gear, there's a safety feature built in that it won't do nothing. But if you get my second gear launch, it actually takes a 3-speed transmission and turns it into a power glide where you can use it in 2 gears. This is becoming very popular with some of the fast cars. A lot of them, though, the faster they're going back to 3 speeds. But there's cars out there that nitrous cars or turbo cars that if they leave in first gear, it's too much of a hit. It's too hard of a launch. They could be at a marginal track where the traction isn't great. They can take off in second gear. And it takes away from the hit, which also means it takes a little bit away from the ET. But usually these guys have so much horsepower, they could sacrifice that and have traction then versus coming up in first gear and launching and going up in smoke, just smoking the tires. So second gear launch is the trans brake will work in first gear and second gear. So you could get my valve body with first gear launch, second gear launch, and clean neutral. And I think the last one on my list is the converter dump valves. There's one more after that. A lot of people that are even some bracket racers may not know. A lot of the street guys might know this is more of a drag race thing here again. We came out with the converter dump system integrated with our valve bodies last year. And basically what it does is it's a set of solenoids mounted outside of the transmission. It's tied in through the valve body, through lines, through plumbing, that when you apply those solenoids, you turn those solenoids on, actually robs the oil that's going into the torque converter and diverts it back into the oil pan. So instead of all 100% of your oil feeding the torque converter for the torque converter to work, you're taking away a part of that. I'm not sure of the percentage. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's 25 or 30%. You've taken away a percentage of the oil that normally would go to the torque converter, and you're redirecting it or dumping it back in the oil pan. What does that do? That it starves the torque converter for oil, and it sends the converter into a cavitation or a slip. If you want, you're slipping the converter. The good thing is the second you let go of the button, all the oil goes back to the converter and it gets totally charged 100%. Does that hurt the converter? Not really, believe it or not, because it's still full. It's just not being charged. Why would you want a dump system? Some cars that take a long time to get up on boost, this for both gas and diesel, by loosening the torque converter, that actually allows the motor to come up on boost quicker. I got a couple of videos. If you go back in my archives of about dump systems, I go into it a little bit heavier. It also helps prevent of taking the thrust bearing out, because when you're on the trans brake, the converter is really filled with fluid and it wants to balloon or push forward, and when that happens, it's hard on the thrust bearing. So it helps with thrust bearing issues. So that's a converter dump system, or a converter dump valves. I'm sorry. All right, last one. And this is, you can only get in a CRT valve body. What's a Tesla valve? A Tesla valve is a one-way check valve with no moving parts that allows fluid to flow very freely in one direction, but restrict it in another direction. Again, I have videos on the Tesla valve. If you just go back a few videos from this one here on YouTube, you'll see that. Starting in 2022, all my billet valve bodies, if it be reverse manual or trans brake, every single valve body from 2022 and up has the Tesla valve built in. All it really does is when you downshifting from second gear to first gear, it doesn't have that very harsh bang of a downshift. It softens that up. I'm a history freak, and so I like I like going back and seeing stuff on our founding fathers and Ben Franklin, what he invented, and Nikola Tesla, what he invented, and I saw that Tesla valve on a couple different things, and I wanted to incorporate that into a transmission, into a valve body, so I did. So there's videos on that get into that, but that's what a Tesla valve is. So I think I covered everything. Oh, there's one more on my list. And it's not so much a definition than it is as an explanation. I've had a couple people call me when they get my valve bodies and they have a question. It says in the valve body instructions, they give you burnout procedures. And the burnout procedure is you should be in the burnout box, start off in second gear, shift into third, and then come out of the burnout box is the proper way to do your burnout procedure. And the only reason why we're doing this is the sprag is not on in I'm sorry, I said that wrong. The sprag is only on in first gear. It is not on in second and third. And since the sprag, even though you can have a drag sprag, you can have low band apply, it's still just a safety precaution to start off in second and go to third. Now, what do you do if you're on the street? I get that all the time. Well, if you're on the street, you probably can't start off in second unless you make gobs of power. So what I tell the guys to do, and I do this in my car when I take Mr. Haney out in the street, I don't do second gear burnouts. I start off in first, go to second as quick as I get the tires spinning, and then put it in third, and then I lay into it. You never want to be in a scenario as a driver where you are doing a burnout in first gear and the tires are spinning fast and then have them hook. That's how sprags fail. And even though you can have a bolt-in sprag, the bolts don't fail. It's the spring and rollers that fail when that happens. So every time a sprag fails, of all the people that had transmission explosions or sprag failures, it's due from the tires spinning in first gear, then dead hooking. A dramatic example would be if you were on ice and you're spinning the tires, you're in first gear, and then you go from the ice to the concrete and the tires dig in, you're going to take out a sprag. So the low band apply does help that. It does, but I've seen people with a low band apply still take out sprags. I actually even had a monster truck break one of my 16 roller drag sprags. So just a little food for thought there. So I think that covers all the definitions. Transmission Class 101. Thanks, guys, for watching. I hope to see you guys at the racetrack this year. Mr. Haney, I've been putting big fat tires on it. I'm going to a 480 gear. So I'm really hoping to go out and go out and see some races. So if you see me or Haney out there, stop by our pit spot and say hi. So again, another video in the can. Thanks for watching. You can find all our products at coltracingtransmissions.com. Click like so other Mopar people can see what you're looking at, and Mopar to you.